technology definitely has facilitated the recruitment of trafficked victims. Here you can see 4 basic methods of recruitment through new technologies. It's either through deceptive work advertisements, deceptive work offers, the famous lover boy method, or else grooming, accompanied with other grooming techniques, and sextortion. So let's see a little bit in more detail what each of these things are. So deceptive work advertisements, it's usually, as we said, on surface web. So it's on trusted job portals, web forums, social media, other virtual platforms. And it is a phishing technique. I mentioned phishing earlier again. It's basically when traffickers cast a net in the digital sphere and wait for victims to fall in the trap. It usually allows criminals to carry out the first screening among potential victims. So usually somebody has a work ad and they wait for people to send express interest. And then they also have access to their social media profiles, so they can do a free to find fraudulent ads. Home help, very, very much, and I will show you, if we have time, a video about that. Childcare, waitressing, tourism, hostessing, modeling, agricultural farming, construction roles, entertainment positions, consensual escorting, and other educational opportunities abroad. In more structured and sophisticated schemes, traffickers are also able to create full-flagged websites of fake employment agencies and promote such portals on social media. They can, in this way, they increase the number of visitors and potential victims. And also they increase the trustability and effectiveness of these scams. Sometimes they can even create virtual meetings with an alleged hire manager in more structured and sophisticated schemes, obviously, but these things also happen. When we say first screening, it's basically that they proceed with the recruitment. Before proceeding with the recruitment phase, they search for the profiles that they that they believe are more suitable for their purposes, right? So indicators now of deceptive work advertisements. When we see an ad that there is no precise indication that there is a physical or a juridical person offering the job, right? So it's very vague. Grammar mistakes or other linguistic issues can be an indicator. Very vague indications or descriptions regarding the job and the skills that are required from the potential employees. And lack of indications regarding the salary. So these indicators are useful in identifying at-risk content. However, there's not definite evidence that we can identify fraudulent advertisement from traffickers. At the same time, we have to bear in mind that if we don't have these features, these indicators, that also doesn't necessarily imply that the ad is authentic and safe. So these are just indicators, they're not conclusive, right? Evidence of a fraudulent and deceptive work ad. Then we have job offers, which is the other technique, the hunting. It consists of when offenders scout job portals, web forums, social media, and spot announcements posted by job seekers. For example, it's a more passive form of recruitment. You post somewhere that you're, for example, offering home help or child care, and somebody sent you a message saying that, we are interested in this ad. They make initial contacts. They pretend to be, because a trusted employer. They usually will require a payment of a fee from the victim in order to secure the job and to help arrange the travel and accommodation. For example, you see many ads that say, come and work for free in the US. I mean, I'm not saying that all these are, I don't want to sound like that, but it can be, you need to be a little bit more, sorry. Okay, so after this initial contact, they might ask for payment of a fee, and the victim usually discovers that this is a scam after arriving at the destination, right? So after you arrive at the US for a job that somebody has offered to you, you realize that, you know, this is not a job, but this is actually a scam, and you are in trouble. Now, the lover boy method, it's a very traditional recruitment technique. It's usually when a trafficker kind of like expresses a romantic interest in a victim. He usually seduces her with promises of marriage, and also this can be accompanied with, you know, come and marry me, and we'll go and live in San Francisco and have a better future and travel abroad from, for example, I don't know, a country where you're having difficulty, from Greece, for example. So come and live in the US, I'll marry you, I'm interested in you, etc. So as the relationship develops further, the victim reaches the other location, goes to the US, and traffickers begin to exploit the victim. And that's why we're very we did mention also that, you know, it might be also your husband, right? So there are overlaps also there with GBV. Grooming and manipulative process. It aims at gaining the victim's trust. And once the trust is created, offenders are very, it's more easily to create emotional dependence, right? And trap the victim, because you are probably maybe in love with this person, he has expressed your romantic interest, he or she has kind of like further feed on your own dreams for the future, so you are in that way kind of seduced. What we need to think here, and among a lover boy and other grooming techniques, is the internet can be used as a virtual catalog for candidates. So there's a huge number of potential victims. We have less barriers because there's no physical distance anymore. So they can select from a whole catalog of candidates. They can also further exploit the contents that that they can find online about victims, so that they can use this content. They can use the content posted by victims to better identify the targets and facilitate the gaining of trust. So, you know, they have access to personal contents like photographs, personal interests, daily interests, places that you visited, and this can make the recruitment process faster and more effective, because traffickers are able to shape their strategies based on the online profile of the victims, right? So people know that I want to travel to Paris, and somebody grooms me and seduces me and tells me, I'm marrying you, come and live in Paris with me, I have a 3-bedroom flat, okay? Dream come true. The shortening of priming times. This is something that I also was not very aware until reading through a little bit of the literature. People in virtual channels are more likely to lower their psychological barriers. So it's more easy to open up emotionally and quickly initiate an intimate, pseudo-intimate interaction, including erotic one online, basically, exactly because, you know, there is no physical contact. So you are more, in that sense, exposed. You can expose yourself emotionally more easily and more quickly. Lure more than one victim at the same time. Obviously, we said a huge access to a number of victims, so they can, you know, check the profiles of many people and scout ads and post deceptive work ads and scout job offers, etc. For that, they don't only use social media, but there are also dating services. They use web forums, chat rooms, and as also mentioned, online encrypted messaging systems like Telegram, WhatsApp, Viber. already mentioned a little bit, with COVID, children and young people are increasingly at risk because of this grooming technique, the lover boy technique. And Europol, this is an interesting data. Europol reported an increasing role of the internet in recruiting Vietnamese minors for sexual exploitation in Western countries. So children for Vietnam for sexual exploitation are groomed online, but also offline, and transported to in Western countries. Here are some testimonies, basically, from traffickers in Romania and Bulgaria, and from victims, from an Albanian victim exploited in Italy and a Bulgarian victim exploited in Italy also. Or you can either use it to blackmail them with publishing the materials if they oppose the exploitation. So if somebody says, I want to, leave this sex trafficking situation, or leave my trafficker, or try to oppose the exploitation in any possible way, they blackmail them with publishing the materials. So it's an exercise of control over the victims, but it's also a recruitment technique. You force the victim to move the exploitation location. So the first phase is obviously the initial contact of sextortion on social media and dating apps. Then you create a fake intimate virtual relationship with a potential victim. You ask them to either produce, a self-generate sexual explicit material, either with a webcam. And once trust is also built, you begin to blackmail and recruit the victim. They also underestimate the risks associated with the sharing sexual explicit material that they also produce on webcams themselves. However, also here to mention that Europol has argued that we should not label sextortion when it comes to minors, because the phenomenon is much more complex, and it also involves the sexual abuse and exploitation of the child. So they suggest online sexual coercion and extortion of children. So you see also the definitions and how we name things also shifts the kind of policies and politics we're doing here. So let me just continue a little bit with presenting some of the concepts. Sorry, okay. So the role of new technologies in transportation. It's less studied than others, the transportation phase and the use of new technologies. So in order to move from the recruitment to the exploitation, obviously victims have to be transferred somewhere from one place to another. This means that traffickers have to deal with a lot of logistical and travel aspects that often have a transnational nature, because maybe they have to change countries and not necessarily national level cities. In this case, they have to pursue travel purchase. They have to ensure that they manage to purchase travel tickets, arrange accommodations, find forged documents. And here is where the dark web may offer several advantages to traffickers, especially in the case of victims that are coming from non-EU countries. So in the dark web, you can usually commercialize fake ID cards, passports, and other ID documentation that can enable the crossing of borders. They can also enable opening a bank account, renting properties, requiring loans, etc. So they will try to obtain forged documents for the victims in the dark web. Also, the communication between within the trafficking ring has changes with the use of technology. There is a coordination between different actors and groups involved in the criminal activity, and it's further enhanced with new technologies. So in this transportation phase, basically, traffickers use the new technology to assure that they preserve their anonymity, and at the same time purchase tickets, arrange documentation, go to the dark web and forge ID documents, and also communicate between the different nodes, between the different actors in the trafficking ring more efficiently. So the role of new technologies in exploitation, here we have three main points: advertisement of victim services, control over victims, and virtual sexual exploitation. The advertisement of victims is a very important point here. They usually use, as I said, the surface web, like social media platforms, classified websites, escort portals, dating websites, and online messaging applications, so WhatsApp, Viber, etc. In order to have access to a large audience of potential customers. So they use new technology to advertise the services of victims. It can be sex services, child care, for example, ads, or the video that is here from the BBC, might see it tomorrow. The internet offers discrete ways to organize the merchandise of sexual services. It allows clients to browse different profiles of victims, to collect information on services and performance ratings. So no longer a fixed physical location is no longer required. So the internet also allows clients to choose victims online. So they can go and choose, I want this woman, and have them directly delivered to their premises. What also happens is that victims are easily moved. This is short by simply modifying the details of the online advertisement. Victims are often moved. This is an important point because it means that victims stay for a short time in a particular location, and then they are moved to another, and this enhances more the feeling of confusion and their dependency to exploiters, right? So a key point here is digital technology is used to advertise the victim services and also gain access to a large audience of customers, and also the clients are able to choose victims online, have them delivered to their premises, as I said, further enhancing the feeling of confusion among victims by changing location online, etc. Indicators now, when we can see an ad and realize that it might be an ad of victim services. The use of images of very young females, right? Advertisement of services by third parties. So you would see, you might see an ad saying, she is good looking, she is an Ukrainian, that, etc., etc. Or the first person, we offer, etc., etc. When you see the same contact details in advertisements that are related to different people, right? The same images on different platforms that contain inconsistent information. When you see that there's a different description of the person provided than the person showed in the picture. So you see, for example, it's a blonde woman, and you see a woman with brown hair from possibly Pakistan, right? So the description of or you see an age saying that she's 20 years old, and you see a picture of a probably 15-year-old, right? Or the opposite. So age, nationality, different description, different picture showed. You might see adjectives that are suspicious, like fresh or new in town, unprotected sex, promotion of unprotected sex, and also this is also very often promotion of legitimate services, such as massage services that contain information that don't have to do with the massage, but have to do with how the masseuse looks like. The use of dark web, especially with the sexual exploitation of minors, is extensive. So you might see on the dark web ads like that. It obviously also The internet obviously also assures that you cannot locate easily the traffickers and the clients. They are anonymous and they are protected by users' identities. So there is a low detection, right? So you cannot easily detect if somebody is constantly changing IP, even if he's on the surface web, right? So once the idea is from this ad is that, you know, they use different virtual channels on the surface web, right? From social media, like we said, escort portals, etc. They establish contact with the clients. And once this contact has been established, then we go to online messages applications that facilitate the arrangement of appointments. And then we have further communication with fast and encrypted online messaging. It's interesting to see here that the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reported an 846 increase in reporting of alleged child sex trafficking in the period 2010-2015, which probably has to do with the use of new technology. So here are some of the indicators, like we said. Again, I said these are not conclusive, right? You can see one aspect but not another. It doesn't necessarily mean that the ad it's an ad of victim services always, right? So again, at the exploitation phase, we use the technology to control the victims. Obviously, you can ensure that you can verify the victim's physical location, right? We have the social media that offer that geolocalize services on Facebook, for example. So you can easily locate and monitor victims through spyware. The use of sextortion for other reasons, which might be financial, for example, is used a lot, and especially with minors. The use of technology to advertise victim services. Here are some indicators of how you can spot an ad that is advertising victim services. And control over victims, the use of technology to control victims. If you remember in the beginning, we talked about new forms of exploitation. So we have new forms of digital sexual exploitation, when we have broadcasting of sexual acts of exploitation online through webcams or by paying a fee. We have coerced cybersex, and also forcing somebody to create and trade online pornographic material. So UNICEF reported here that children are at risk, especially of sexually explicit video calls with abusers that are based somewhere elsewhere in the world. And UNODC pointed that even if this does not constitute trafficking in person as such, it describes also how abusive material can be disseminated in virtual environments.